drop into the breath and breathe with the breath of oneness here for a minute. Let's repeat the invocation together. Toward the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Bismillah Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. So let's do the Ya Quddus, Ya Jami dance.
Ya Quddus, Ya Quddus, Ya Jami. That's it. La ilaha illallah, 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 la ilaha illallah. Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia. La ilaha illallah, 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 la ilaha illallah. Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia. So we'll start with, first we'll need partners. No, we don't need partners for this one. No partners. So we'll grapevine to the right, starting with a step and then the cross. La ilaha illallah, 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 la ilaha illallah. Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia, Ya Quddus, Ya Jamia. Hold on a second. Did everyone get that part? If you turn, keep turning to the right. Start to the center. Ya Quddus, Ya Jami, Ya Quddus, Ya Jami, Ya Quddus, Ya Jami, Ya Quddus, Ya Jami.
sustain this breath and come up close. We're going to take this into a meditation. So when you settle in to sitting, check in with your breath first and just ride on it and let it come into a rhythm and gradually slow down, become more refined. Continuing to let the breath settle down, come into a natural rhythm, extend itself on inhalation and exhalation, and retain a balance of inhalation and exhalation. But gradually easing one sense of self-presence in the breath and just riding the breath with a very light sense of self. And as we settle into this natural rhythm of breath, then we're going to add this prayer on the breath of exhaling Ya Quddus and inhaling Ya Jami. And as we exhale the Ya Quddus, we let go of all the stuff we're carrying and everything that's transient in our being that we're holding on to. It's like we're releasing the ballast, and the sense of our real self or our soul is rising. It has a buoyancy. It has a sense of returning home. The more we give up of that which is transient and changing, the more we enter that which is eternal and unchanging. We have this sense of returning to our home as we exhale and let the breath fully exhale the Ya Quddus. And then when we reach the place of the end of the breath, we draw everything together. We begin from that place of emptiness, of buoyant self-presence in the eternal, to integrate a sense of self, and Jami is the joining together, the synthesis, the integration. So pulling that all in as you inhale and becoming one with this integrated sense of the divine self that you've drawn from the light of the place you're at when you're exhaled Ya Quddus. And then returning, you're letting go of everything you're holding on to, returning back to the source as you are exhaling the Ya Quddus. We'll continue this for a few minutes just to settle into this contemplation. We notice an ecstasy in the letting go and a great ecstasy in pulling together, synthesizing, integrating. Then opening your eyes and continuing to just take this right into the present moment. We're going to do some further study of Shaghal and take up some instructions from Hazrat Inayat Khan on the subject of Shaghal. And I want to just kind of go over, just kind of bit by bit, in a meditative way, this first general instruction on the subject of Shaghal. You don't have to follow along with me in the text, but you can if you choose to. These are from some of the advanced teachings of Hazrat Inayat Khan for students as they come along the path. The all-pervading life is silent in its original nature and inactive. It is this condition of inertia which is called by Vedantists sattva, and the beginning of its activity is the formation of capacity. So just to consider this for a moment, that the original nature is silent, unmoving, absolute in its being, and the initial the beginning of its activity, its first activity is the formation of a capacity. So now, in the first place, we're going to take this right into our human beingness, because he says, it is this capacity which allows the activity of the all-pervading life to become audible. And therefore, the first manifestation of the all-pervading life is called in the Bible Word, and in the Vedanta, Nada Brahma, meaning creator word, or the word of the creator. And this is the explanation of what is said in the Bible. For in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. As man, and I'm using just the phraseology of Inayat Khan here, as woman is the miniature universe in herself. In her also the Word is born. In man, as man is the miniature universe in himself. In him also the Word is born. When the capacity allows the Word, which is breath, to re-echo itself. So now just consider this for a moment. Meditate, take your attention to that original nature, that stillness, that formless absolute. See this as inside of you, that your being itself is a capacity, makes a big space within you for the whole universe. And this whole universe, in this sense, is this absolute silence, this absolute stillness, formless, eternal. And as you feel that spaciousness within yourself as a capacity. Now, what's another way of saying capacity? It's a potentiality. It's an infinite potentiality that is recognized. That recognition that this pure spaciousness becomes an accommodation, a capacity, a potential for activation of something or holding of something is the initial movement of all that is. God coming to a kind of self-awareness in the absolute condition, seeing all possible universes contained within this capacity. Continuing with this text, which I want to continue to take up in a meditative way, it's the beginning of its the beginning of its activity of this silent life is the formation of capacity, and it is this capacity which allows the activity of the all-pervading life to become audible. As woman is the miniature universe herself, in her also the word is born. When the capacity allows the word, which is breath, to re-echo itself, it manifests in an audible sound. That's why when you listen, you put your ear to a shell, you hear an inner kind of echo. When you put your sense of awareness and hearing into this capacity, you hear this inner current, this breath, as it is perceived to the inner ear. It is this sound which the adept hears in the Shaghal. And at different times after the Shaghal, it is the breath, the life itself. When it raises itself into motion and when the capacity allows it to echo, then the sound becomes audible, which means the all-pervading life which was silent has been allowed to manifest itself first in the realm of sound, this being the original state of the whole creation, which naturally reminds the soul of its origin. Therefore, it puts the soul into ecstasy. So by going back in your original nature to the place where it becomes a capacity that is a breath that echoes that original nature, as we hear that inner sound, it reminds our soul of our immortal, eternal nature, and this brings a tremendous ecstasy to the soul. And that's why Shaghal is a very important practice. So just breathing in this way for a few moments, feeling the spaciousness of your being, its inherent stillness, not created, not destroyed, boundless, undefined. And then just as you listen within, listen to the sound of your breath echoing in that. It is this sound which the adept hears in the Shaghal, And at different times after the Shaghal, it is the breath, the life itself. When it raises itself into motion, and when the capacity allows it to echo, then the sound becomes audible, which means the all-pervading life, which was silent, has been allowed to manifest itself, first in the realm of sound, this being the original state of the whole creation, which naturally reminds the soul of its origin. Therefore, it puts the soul into ecstasy. As the Word has been the source of all creation, so all that man wishes to create and produce in his life finds its source in this sound. As the Word has been the source of all creation, so all that woman wishes to create and produce in her life finds its source in this sound. As the air and the breath of all things, as the air is the breath in the all things, and is the cause of all motion, so in its absence all things would turn into nothingness. And this reminds one of this hadith Qudsi of the Prophet Muhammad speaking in the voice of Allah, where he says, I looked within my original nature and I saw all that is, the creation of all that is filled with the breath of Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim, mercy, compassion, infinite mercy, infinite compassion, moving in the breath of this capacity within my original nature, creating all that is. Just take that as a contemplation of the divine nature and spend a minute in reflecting that condition. Resting in that absolute condition, feeling it as a capacity. This space is a capacity, a potentiality, and within that recognition arises this breath of infinite mercy, infinite compassion that fills all space, allows for manifestation. Now just from this place, we're going to do this first one, which uses simply the ears, because we're working with sound. Shaghal means an occupation to penetrate through the inner planes. It means an occupation to penetrate through the inner planes. It's not just some outer practice. The first Shaghal is to close one's ears with the tips of the fingers for about 5 seconds, not longer, because he wanted people not to stress in this practice. We can do it about, because you have to retain your breath. He didn't trust people could retain their breath more comfortably than 5 seconds. Let's take 10 seconds here for ourselves about. This must be done after inhaling a full breath, and it's necessary to control the breath, in other words, to hold the breath in while doing this exercise. One must concentrate on the word hu during this practice. In other words, hear the sound which comes to one on closing the ears as hu, and interpret it to oneself as the sound of the inner working of the entire universe. Now, we've just been looking at that sense of how the working of the entire universe is held in this infinite capacity of the divine heart, which is replicated in each woman and man. So this is where we want to go with this Shaghal. Practice brings one to stillness of mind, raises one above the disagreeable noises of the world, gives one peace in the midst of the crowd. Best time for it is late at night or early in the morning, and best place is solitude. But we have this protected space here to do this in, so what we're going to do is just stay in this inner spaciousness that we've been cultivating by reflecting on this general teaching on Shaghal, and then inhale a full breath through both nostrils, and then closing the ears with our fingers, hold the breath and listen to the inner sound as hu, as the working of the whole of the universe. Releasing. Take an intermediate breath or two. Settle down. And we repeat this practice 3 more times at your own speed, letting go when you feel uncomfortable and want to breathe out. So these are the Shaghals that we'll be working with for this next period of time. They're pretty simple. There are two more here, one using the eyes and the other one using all the senses. I don't want to go into them right now because I think that's enough to put in our space, but the teaching at the beginning, I think, is one that if we can go there before we're doing the Shaghal and really kind of open up our sense of this inner spaciousness, we'll be much more, get much more benefit from the practice. Are there questions that people have about the meditative practices we've been doing on a regular basis or the Shaghal practice? We're going to get into Mushahida, and I'm going to give you some instruction on Mushahida today also, so that as a way of approaching Mushahida. All these practices at this stage converge on each other, really. We're trying to create an accommodation for within ourselves for this experience. So whether we're doing it in a very active form, and we can't do it in an active form in Mushahida unless we have done it in a passive form, first by creating an inner accommodation and by seeing what arises there spontaneously in that space. And then from there we want to be able to have a perspective which allows us not to have any kind of bias in our viewpoint, and overcome all of our emotional programming around self-blame and outer judgment, in order to enter into the and that's some of that we'll address with the Mushahida practice. Yeah, you want to say?
I've always have to work with a critic the moment I start these practices, especially the more esoterically become. And the critic kind of has this childhood training about common sense and the emperor has no clothes and what do you think you're doing? And sometimes, often I can't get through it. And I just wonder how you work with, if you have any guidance for that voice that just says, this is ridiculous, what do I think I'm doing? Because I have they're different ranges, but it's always that sort of, I guess maybe self-doubt, or I'm not sure what it is, I don't know what to name it, but because it comes at a different.
Well, yeah, but whatever it is, this critical voice that intrudes on your practice is an aspect of yourself that is creating a kind of an imbalance. So, it can, in that sense of it's a distraction. And so you want to address it and in a way that directly addresses it and clears it. And I want to get to that when I present the Mushahida practice. So I'll wait, and then I'll remember to take that aspect of it up, because that's a disabling factor that you have to get past. Yes.
Did you ever go over with us where the Shaghal practices came from? Did he develop them himself?
No, he didn't develop them himself. They're ancient practices, ancient yoga practices, and the yogis and the Sufis in India do them, and traditionally did them, and because in the spirit of Sufism, they were learning from each other in the realm of practice. And because practices take you to similar states, whatever your belief structure is, because this body is the temple of God. So as we learn how to work with the breath and the various faculties of the body, then practices converge on certain experiences that we have. But these are the practices, and you'll see yogis in India that have a big staff here like this, where they're resting their arms on it. and so that they can do this Shaghal practice, for hours at a time. But you see, Anaya Khan gave it to us to do for brief periods of time, but then to carry it forward. So there are often differences between schools into how practices are developed, but the core practice comes from a very ancient yogic tradition. Yeah, go ahead. You want to follow up?
Yes, some of my mind's going, I've not done much yoga at all, but seems to get into particular postures.
Well, that's a hatha yoga. That's just one form of yoga. Yoga really means anything that has something to do with the breath and is a means of uniting with God. Yes,
I just
Nizamdi?
wanted to say, I have a yoga book that details Shaghal. The only thing that they add is close the sphincter as well as the other gate.
Yeah, I've heard it closing the sphincter to close off that as well.
It's very clearly detailed in the book.
Oh yeah, and also in that book that was just published by Omega Press, and there's a long, not a long, maybe 5 or 6 page article written by the classical Sufi, who Murshid Sam said he felt he was a reincarnation of, or how in Sufism you say Tanasuk, sort of the he kind of had a similar life and a similar inner experience to him, and this was Dara Shikoh, and he was he was the Sufi who was the grandson of the Emperor Akbar, and his brother Jahangir was the one who took things towards more, I don't know what to call it, limited view of Islam, and actually killed his brother Dara Shikoh, and took over, and that was really the fall of the Mughal dynasty, from Hazrat Inayat Khan's point of view, happened at that point in India. The decline of this great teaching that Akbar had given of the unity of all religions and all of this tremendous, the emperor of India, the Sufi emperor, and then, but in any case, it's very beautifully written. It's called The Compass of Truth. And basically he's describing the Shaghal practice, so you should take a look at it. And but it is described again in a much more demanding way than we do it. We're doing it for a few seconds at a time. But one of the things he said I thought that was very interesting in this text, and I gave my book away to Imam Bilal, so I have to buy another one. Was that he's giving all this for the benefit of people that didn't have this experience that he had of just receiving this full transmission directly from his teacher, who was the Sheikh Mian Mir, who was this famous Qadri Sheikh. And this was where Murshid was meditating at his tomb, and when he got the teaching of Peace is Power, his tomb in Lahore, Pakistan. But this is all historical in that sense. What people have tried to do in our time, whether they're Tibetan or Sufi or yogic or whatever their school is to find a practice that is going to have a good interface with where Western civilization is at this point, where we are psychologically, where we are in every other. So that because people came in and they had this idea, we'll just do it the way they did it before, and so in some cultures that meant, well, first you have to just really do all these prayers and all these prostrations and all this, you do this stuff, and then you'll get the goodies over here. But we got led there by having all these experiences without any structure, and we wanted to, but we needed the path, so we had to first we had to go from experience to path, and so that's what the teachers who were able to really affect a Western culture and get outside of just the group of people that came already enculturated from their culture, realized was that you have to meet people with what they present. And what our culture presented was a very active culture and where we were psychologically, our attitudes and so on. So how do you get through? You need to, Murshid's premise was Sufism is based on experience and not on premises. So that was his premise. But, so what experiences will lead us into trusting enough to open up to the depth of teachings are experiences of joy, of love, of overcoming separation, it's not about a lot of belief systems and a lot of, get this practice right and you'll get there, or get this prayer right and you'll get there. It's about meeting people where they are and then defining how the path evolves from that place, because for each one of us a unique path does evolve, but there are cosmic paradigms that are very useful, and you don't have to reinvent things as you go along. Yes?
I have, my breath is not a smooth thing. Still practicing.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it's worked in my life. There's a lot of things have gone up and down and sideways, and I've remained calm through it, relatively calm. And so something is working. And at the same time, I'm saying to myself, this is really stupid, doing all this stuff, and, I'm gonna die doing all this stuff, and, my last breath, it's funny, but at the same time, that's what's going through my noggin, and so, so I'm integrating both, something feels like it's working, and the other thing, and then there's what Perry mentioned is the voiceover, or it might be wisdom, saying this is totally ridiculous.
Yeah, well, we have to address the critical voice in our own way, it's not to be ignored, it's to be looked at and to see where's it coming from, what's it, what aspect of myself has this concern, and to go into it in a deep way of looking at it. In general, we've defined over the course of this course a stream of practice that begins with some very fundamental things. Be aware of your breath. God is in your breath. Bring it into a state of rhythm and ease, and learn from it. That's and practice oneness with it, because it's a vehicle for remembering that we're not separate. So if you can become one with the breath and God is in the breath, then you can begin to overcome separation. You're remembering your oneness by remembering your oneness with the breath. And then you find as you develop this relationship with the breath, that the breath has all these capacities. It has the capacity to reach different planes of vibration, of beingness, and touch it and bring something back, or take something forward into realms. So you begin to become aware of the potentialities of the breath, and then you can approach it in a more systematic way, doing some of the practices that people have done over the years and have received benefit from. But you have to always come back really to the basic thing. One may be trying to do a practice that one isn't really ripe to do. So you have an experience doing it, and it creates something, but there's a certain kind of strain involved in the practice. So what we're going to try and do as we complete this course, it's never complete, because our work with the breath is continuing, and we continue to learn through this lens. But what I want to do is to leave everybody with a sense of I can take from this compendium of what we brought forth and accentuate the things that for me are valuable, and I can steadily work with them, and the others I may return to or not, depending on my own sense of interest in it, and not trying to do it because right now I'm just trying to, at this point, I know, based on my experience, that some people here are prepared to get a lot from some of these practices and some aren't. It's just the human nature. We all move into them at different speeds. I know my experience of some of these practices is very different than it was a number of years ago, but so that's the important thing, is not saying, okay, well, this is it, defining a methodology to the end, but giving you a sense of, okay, I can always come back to the beginning, and from that beginning I can find ways of that the inner spirit of guidance working through my attentiveness to the breath will lead me forward, and some of these other things will come up, and I can find what I want to incorporate into my daily life, because this is a course that is you can't go at the same speed for everybody, because it never works well that way. But so if you're working one-on-one with somebody, then you go at a certain speed with them in terms of that. But not to worry about how some of the practices are, I said, I'm all wound up here, and I just, well, okay, the most important thing, you go back, what's the most important thing about Shaghal to get? It is letting go of trying to get it all out here, and to realize that I have this infinite capacity within. If I can let go, you don't need to manipulate anything. All you need to do is to just totally, release yourself into the inner spaciousness of being that you encompass in the heart center of your being, and rest in that and find the capacity in that. So, I mean, we really should be just kind of trying to get to the essence of it. Some of the outer techniques are just, it's like, okay, try a number of things around the spectrum, and you'll get a breakthrough somewhere, and something will reach you in a way that is meaningful to you. It's not that it all has to be something that you want to do every day. Yes?
I was caught by surprise about a year ago when I was doing Shaghal, and I was having probably the feelings that everyone else was having. So, gee, I don't know how long do I have to do this. And one day I was doing it, and all of a sudden, this extremely beautiful mandala, larger than the whole room, just went zoom and consumed me, and I was lost in it. And I was really taken quite by surprise. I didn't know I could get that far with it.
Well, that's the only reason you got this, because you were taken by surprise.
Surprise, I should.
Our expectations and our desires, are the big block. I mean, definitely, you go into it without expectation, you'll be much better off, and get surprised. Yes.
I just want to say, on a sort of very simple, sort of positive note, when I first started to do this thing, I had quite the same, both physically, it was extremely, it felt like a contortion. I was like, wow, I can't even do this. And also psychologically, I felt something like, this is odd or eccentric or strange. But what I want to say is, by just doing it every day in private, with time, not having to worry anything, almost like, playing the piano for 10 minutes, it doesn't feel like a strain anymore, and that sense of this is eccentric has gone away, and I'm able to do it in a very light way that doesn't bother me. Psychically, and it's become, and I'm talking in a very simple way, it's become enjoyable, and so that allows me to then work with it, so that this thing is
It's subtle.
but just through repetition.
Yeah, it settles in, and that's why I'm giving it, so that you know, so to take people by their comfort zone, to, you know, try some of these things, and then by repeating it, something may happen that's meaningful for you, and in the end, you're going to go back to whatever you're drawn to, but, you know, having a sense of how a stream exists here can be a benefit. I don't mind continuing this vein, but I did want to let me see what I had on my notes to do right now. Oh yeah, okay, let's do that. I'm going to come back after lunch and take a Mushahida and also just, you know, one of the things about addressing the issues that come up for us that are distract us and make us unable to get into something like what we're asking people to do. The Mushahida practice, Murshid Sam didn't give to everybody. He talked about it, he only gave it to a few of us. Now we're sharing it more broadly. You know, it's not something everybody can easily do. And, you know, and so, but I want to share it as part of a complete program of practice, and then, you know, and then as we come back over it in our own time, because just to say this, the way I see, you know, I like having established this Sangha, and it feels like something one wants to do in the future. To be able to have this continuity of a group that you can work with over the course of a year. I mean, to really see what develops, and you know, so one of the things that occurs to me is, well, one thing I've decided to do is, because this course is getting a lot of interest other than us, you know, it's available through, and we're going to start you know, I mean, people are logging into it at different times and taking this course and, you know, benefiting from our presence of doing practices, and also just the course outline and checking in. But we're going to try and put together a virtual group, you know, to go through it, you know, from the beginning, starting at the beginning of next year, you know, so that there'll be people that can support each other in the process, but they won't be here. And, you know, some people here may want to join them at no cost to you, to come back through the, you know, with people in that way, and to support people in their process. And it's true, it's not that I'm going to set everything aside in order to do this Murshid Sam biography. It's just that I need to get a lot of traction on it. So for the, you know, basically the first 6 months of the year, of this coming year, I want to be giving a lot of you know, daily attention to it. And, you know, but at some point after that, I will be considering starting up another group, not on, you know, a few ideas have come to me. You know, maybe it would be the beginning of the following year. Maybe it would be sometime into you know, in the fall of next year. You know, or that sort of thing. So I mean, I'm open to that. And what I want people to do for next time, which will be our last meeting of this group, is to, and I wrote it out here in the practice assignments. So I'll just read that now. Request for everyone to prepare for next month's class. Give special attention to one particular area of your experience in the course of going through the practices and everything that came along with this class. It could be to simply, I didn't proofread this obviously. It could be simply, you know, scratch out the two. It could be simply something you really learned, or learned about yourself, but be prepared to share it with us all. And it could be in the form of a poem or inspiration or a creative project. But what I'm asking is just, you know, it's not like, okay, I mean, you know, maybe it was, you know, something, you know, that other people didn't notice, or something that just really came up for you, or something really basic, or something not so basic, or whatever, you know, something you want to just share, you know, with, as a way of of coming into some understanding together about what our process is, because it's different for everybody, and everybody's process is fine. As far as I'm concerned, if you want to take the whole thing and throw it in and see what floats, the downstream, that's fine with me, because Murshid Sam's first principle is, it may be useful, whatever gets there, whatever works, whatever brings you love, joy, peace, insight, strength, in your life, go with that. The rest of it are just suggestions, just like all our ideas about God are just metaphors for, to jump into an actual experience. So, we don't want to get too attached to our concepts or our pedagogy or anything else, but I think just based on the feedback I've got, that we have a process here that works for people if people give themselves over to trying to do this. So that's where we are, and I thought that I would go over the Shaghal practice that we have been doing, which is the Shaghal Alaskar, in which we cover all of the senses and fall back into the source of all sensing, the oneness out of which all of our senses arise, and are open to cosmic light and sound. This is a practice of letting go of our vigilance out here, our sense of having to be aware out here, and really falling back into the cave of our inner being, and letting our senses reverse their direction and come into a oneness of being in which we just are bathing in light and sound. The sound who, the light that is the light of every atom of being. So, covering the left nostril as we inhale and cover the senses. As soon as you feel any impulse to breathe, you slowly release your fingers and enter the space. Noticing the effect that this has on your awareness in general. Now let's repeat this. And once more. Any questions on this practice? Yes.
My question is, how, let's see, whether to sort of apply will in wanting to lengthen the time of being in it. And for me, the impulse to breathe comes in, and if I say, well, okay, you can relax and stay with it a little longer, it seems to be good and positive and things happen, then I think sometimes I can be a little over pushy with that. So that's the question.
You just have to find the balance that feels right for you. Because if you push it too hard and you notice that creates a certain agitation, and then when you have to let your senses off really quick, to kind of get there, like you're gasping for breath. You don't want to push that far. It's nice to push it as far as you comfortably can, and maybe just a little bit more. But you just have to play with it and see how how you can get the most complete experience out of it, and you can really tell a lot by the state that it takes you into after you've done the practice, and reflecting on that state and its balance and its power and its peacefulness and its the awareness that's in the senses. This is a good indicator of how deeply one has done the practice in a good way. But there's no rule about it. I mean, the yogis retain the breath for a really long time with this practice. Ajahn Khan was very careful in giving this practice, which he thought was a very important practice for him, to Western murids, because he didn't have the confidence that they wouldn't abuse themselves in doing the practice. So he told them to do it very, not to hold the breath long, and to just do it a few times a day. And somewhere in between is where we are right now. I think in our digestion of this practice in the West, I think we can extend our time much longer than was initially given. We can do more practice, more repetition of it, and certainly on retreat, often people are given this to do, on a more extensive basis. But I think we need to be careful not to strive. It's not about striving with our will. It's about letting go and returning to the source. And so, we need to be determined to do that. But being determined to let go sometimes is hard to say, okay, I'm going to let go now. So we have to find the relaxed way to do it. And so that's why I generally give the instruction as soon as you feel the impulse to breathe, because that's sort of a safety place. But if you can go on a little longer than that comfortably, and say, okay, no problem here, and go on another 5 or 10 seconds or whatever, that's fine too.
So this is a melody that has traveled to Ireland and England with some people that heard me play it once and took it with them. So it's been to Bali also. I don't know if you could play. This is very slow too. So let's learn the melody first. When you sing that. away. So the movements are very simple. We're just going to be just doing a Zikr movement to the, let's move in a little tighter of the circle. You don't have to be shoulder to shoulder, it's just friendly. And we're just moving with each step on the beat. So it's feel that inside, and then take hands and walk again. And then at one point, we'll just do the Zikr, the phrase of Zikr, La ilaha illallah, La ilaha illallah. And the music will keep going during that, but I'll try to warn you about that. So first let's sing it before we move. Let's move on the second round of this.
Amen. So let's just take this moment to offer our breath of love in whatever we've realized here in all directions for the benefit of all that we're connected with in the great web of life. Just breathing from this place, this center of heart, into all the connections in this world. May all